Okay, hi everybody. Leann Forst here with leannforst.com. And today I am joined with my friend here, Bridget Danner, and we're going to talk all about detox and hormones. So welcome, Bridget. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Leann. Nice to be here.
Oh, I'm glad to have you. So I'm just going to jump right in and tell people, I'm going to read off your bio so that people can learn a little bit more about you and kind of understand who you are and what you do. Okay.
Okay.
So Bridget Danner has been a licensed acupuncturist since 2004 and certified functional diagnostic practitioner since 2015. She gave over 12,000 treatments in her years working as an acupuncturist and led a staff of 10 at her practice. Her interest in natural health grew from an interest in protecting the environment, and even as a child, she was donating her allowance to Greenpeace and writing cosmetic companies to ask about their practices. While busy running an integrative wellness center in Portland, Oregon, she developed an environmental illness due to toxic mold in her home. And already experienced in hormone management and nutrition, she became acutely aware of the powerful impact of the environment on her health. She and her family lost their homes and everything in it to toxic mold and moved 1,000 miles to the Arizona desert to heal. Bridget now educates about toxins and detoxification through her blog, online programs, product shop, and Facebook group. And she also works with private clients on customized functional medicine protocols for healing. So that is a lot. You've had quite a run there, and I love that you have personal experience. So that I think is really powerful. So I would like to just kind of jump right in and talk about detox and hormones and have you kind of explain to our listeners how toxins affect, your health as a woman.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking before the show, and I think a lot of people know, like, we should exercise, we should eat right. But in the background, playing out is all these new chemicals in our environment, increase in heavy metals, and potentially mold, potentially chronic infections, and they are affecting how our hormones are manufactured, how they interplay, how they're detoxified. And we sometimes just don't really look at them enough. So mostly in this talk or in this conversation, we're going to talk about what's technically called toxicants, like external and man-made toxins, because there are also toxins that are natural that, critters in our body are making or that kind of a thing. And they're also hard on us, but especially we're talking about, synthetic things like food additives and cleaning chemicals and that kind of thing. And they do affect us. They affect us. One thing is I've been studying more about lately is they create inflammation in the body. And inflammation will prevent cellular signaling from happening if the outside of your cell wall is inflamed. And also just this low-grade inflammation that can happen is enough to keep you in obesity. And a lot of people are struggling with their weight and trying to do all the right things, and they're just not looking enough at toxins and detox as like an important way to reduce inflammation and manage your weight. So that's an important thing that I think we're getting missing. I think many people do know toxins are hormone mimickers, right? Many of them look like estrogens in our body. So there's xenoestrogens, and having this extra information of estrogen that isn't really estrogen in our body can make for an estrogen increase or even like low production of hormones because the body thinks it has estrogen, and some of those estrogens are trying to attach to the receptor sites, but they don't really work properly, right? So it can just create a lot of confusion for women and also for men. Men don't need to be getting these synthetic estrogens into their body. So the way they affect men and women's physiology is a little different. But it's the same kind of like hormonal confusion. So that's a bit about, kind of like sex hormones, but also insulin hormone can really be affected by toxins. Less insulin is made, cells become less insulin sensitive. And then you can also have weight issues, brain fog issues, kind of food cravings. And then thyroid is a popular hormone that we know about as well. Thyroid is very delicate, and every cell has thyroid receptors. So you want like a clean environment so enough thyroid hormone can be made, so the gut can be healthy where thyroid conversion happens, so the liver can be healthy where thyroid conversion happens. So anywhere like along the stage of your health, toxins can basically cause like an interruption in what should be normal functioning. Um, and that's why we need to pay more attention to them.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. I teach about detox as well. And so we're very much seeing eye to eye on exactly what you've been talking about. And so that's why I just love you and have been following you for a while. So how would, if somebody wants to get started, I mean, we talked about how it's probably a good idea to start in the home. So can you explain that a little bit more of what someone would do?
Yeah, so home is where we spend the most time, right? We're sleeping
Mhm.
here, we're making meals here, and it's the environment we have the most control over. If you're spending a lot of time at a certain workplace too, it's something you can like think about and should consider. We could talk about that, but home is where like you have the very most control of your environment. So yeah, definitely you want to start by creating your home is like as much of a low tox sanctuary as possible. And some people listening may already be doing some things, quote unquote, right about like non-toxic living in the home, but there's usually some other areas where we kind of forgot to think about it, or we don't know how to replace this thing, this aspect
Mhm.
of it. So that's not one thing I try to help teach is just like going around the home, looking at different areas, giving some advice on that decision making. And that's not the heart of my company in a sense, but if we're going to talk about detox, we definitely have to talk about toxin avoidance, right? Because you can't just like keep putting the toxins in and then detoxing them out. You've got to actually
Right.
reduce the number of toxins coming in.
Yeah, I agree. So you definitely need to start by reducing your toxic exposure, right? And I myself suffered from toxicity as well, and it was amazing when I started researching toxicity and the chemicals that disrupt our hormones, our DNA, and our metabolism. I mean, just the chemicals that disrupt our metabolism, like you said, cause a weight management issue. Now they're labeling them obesogens, right?
Yeah, that's a term a lot of people don't know. I love that term. So
Yeah.
obesogen is just any, I guess you could say, chemical, and that doesn't have to just be synthetic, that alters the way that we gain or lose weight, store fat, make fat cells. So there's a lot of different mechanisms that can interrupt, like insulin sensitivity, like we mentioned. They can also make more fat cells or make less fat cells, but make your fat cells larger. So there's all these little ways, and like we don't even think about that. And they can be in some of the chemicals we'll talk about, but they can also be as a result of pharmaceuticals. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, I can't when I take whatever medication, like I get fat, like I can't lose weight," right? And so it can happen from a lot of different things. So having like some awareness of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just
Everybody,
totally.
everybody talks about nutrition and exercise, but people don't talk about detoxing for weight management as well. And it has to be, I think it's part of the equation more and more. I mean, because we're exposed to a higher level of toxins than we were 30 or 50 years ago, right? Our grandparents didn't have to deal with this level of toxicity and toxins in our modern day society. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and sometimes I get the question when I started to talk about detox more, like, doesn't our body detox naturally? Like, why do we have to do anything about that? And this is why, like, we're living in a very different environment than we did, a few hundred years ago or a few thousand years ago. So many more chemicals, like more being like invented all the time.
Hmm.
And then meanwhile, like our food quality is getting worse, our soil quality is getting worse, we're under more stress. So there's a lot of factors, excuse me, that are a challenge to detoxification now. So anytime we say like we're detoxing, we're just supporting our body's own ability to detox. And so of course we're working like with the body. But I really do make the argument like we need to think about detox. I think that's still a little bit of a common myth that like that's just like a fad or whatever. But I'd really like to see this decade be a decade where we really embrace detox. Like we embrace paleo, we embrace different things. It's like, let's embrace detox and like change the definition of that as just a daily practice and awareness, of making buying decisions, of, supporting the liver, of like getting, movement for exercise, movement for detox. So Yeah, I think it's a great, you bring up a great point, and I know this audience is curious about it. So we'll dig in more and get more specific.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of circling back to your home, you know, stopping or reducing, I should say, the amount of toxic exposure. And we're exposed a lot in our home because that's where we spend the most time. So what would you recommend as far as some areas of the home to start looking at if people wanted to start reducing their toxic exposure?
Yeah, I kind of focus on 5 areas. There's certainly more, but these are things you can scan. And one would be your kitchen, specifically like how you cook and how many times is plastic touching your food in the process of food storage preparation. Maybe you have some glass Tupperware, but how much plastic Tupperware do you have left? Are y'all ever stirring spoons, either metal or bamboo or whatever? Even I didn't know this till a year or two ago, even just like storing food in a plastic bag in the pantry is actually, there's still a transfer of chemicals to the food. So if you buy like beans in bulk, better to like take them home and put them in a jar. And certainly when you buy things like a frozen pizza, that's it looks like a paper underneath of it, but
Hmm.
it's coated in plastic, just like your Starbucks cup is coated in plastic. So anything that looks paper is actually, they need something to waterproof it, right? So thinking about all the things is obviously kind of increased with processed food, that you tend to be more plastic involved. And then another place to look is your pantry. So storing, are your cans BPA free? Are you storing in glass? Your bulk items? And then there's just so many like weird food additives and processed foods that can also kind of confuse the body and create inflammation. So not to say we're never ever going to have a processed food touch our mouths, but really like reducing that, and let that just be like for some little necessary ingredient in your cooking, and not like let processed food be too much of a staple. Even from just we know that's not as nutritious, but it's also can be a lot more toxic and inflammatory, those processed foods.
Yeah, yeah, that is really great. Being kind of a detective in your kitchen, I think that's a great place to start. And what's touching your food, and where does your food, what packaging your food is in when you get it. And I think that's awesome. So, are there any other areas that you would look at in the home?
Yeah, the 3 others are medicine cabinet, beauty products, and cleaning products. So I know you do essential oils, and I use essential oils as well. They're such a star in all those areas because cleaning chemicals can be really harsh and toxic. And luckily now there's a lot more formulas out in the store that are non-toxic, just using natural surfactants and essential oils. You can certainly make your own things with vinegar and baking soda and that kind of a thing. So it's gotten a lot easier, but there's really never an instance where you have to use something really toxic to clean. Everything can be done a different way. We just sort of, as the kind of chemical revolution happened, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, like we kind of got convinced that we needed all these things to clean, but we don't. They didn't always exist, and we don't need them now. And often they're killing too many germs in the home, and we want more of like a well-balanced environment in the home. We don't want to use these harsh things. Medicine cabinet, a lot of over-the-counter things have synthetic ingredients that then your liver has to process and use some vitamins and nutrients it should be using to detox other things. Now you're detoxing this over-the-counter medication. They often have food colorings in them. So essential oil products can be a great, replacement here, using like peppermint oil for your headache, and instead of using, Advil or whatever. And there's times where you really have to go over-the-counter medication, but think about like just natural remedies you can replace and swap in there. And then last, and maybe the biggest, is beauty, where we use so many products on ourselves. So thinking about your deodorant, your toothpaste, your shampoo, your makeup, and is it a company that has some standards about adding artificial fragrance? Fragrance is always an endocrine disruptor and an obesogen every single time. So you don't need, a lot of beauty products and a lot of products in general have like a signature scent that is synthetic. And just know every time you're smelling that, that's potentially a hormone
Mm-hmm.
disruptor. So choosing products that are scented with essential oils, that, are tested for heavy metals, like with your makeup. Um, what are a few other, I mentioned deodorant. That's a very touchy, subject. I can't find one that works. You can do, there's some, if you could look online, you can do like an armpit cleanse. Sometimes when you're switching over to a more natural deodorant, you need to kind of work through all the stored toxins in your armpit for a while before you switch to a more natural deodorant, and just finding a brand that works for you. But there is a solution for everything. It's just doing some experimentation and, yeah, seeing what's a fit for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, personal care products is definitely a big area. I do a class. I teach a whole class on detoxifying, on detox and personal care products. And and the latest is that women on average use 165 different chemical ingredients just in their personal care products alone,
Mm,
right? They're exposed to 165 different ingredients. Men 85 and children like 61. And it's really alarming that the personal care products laws have not been updated since 1938. So they can really put anything in a bottle and sell it to you. And I agree with that word fragrance is like it could mean up to 3,000 different chemicals, but they just have to put that one word fragrance on there. And so,
right. It's like proprietary. So if
yeah,
you saw like the 100 chemicals, you'd be like, wait, what a second, what is this?
yeah, right.
Yeah, there are very few chemical ingredients that have been reviewed at all, like 7 or something like that. Like, it's just like such an archaic bureaucratic system to regulate all that, and it's really sad. So, and the good news though is, as a consumer, you do have more choices now, and there's a bunch of great websites where you can go and learn more. And now you do see, when you go to the store, more like, paraben free, fragrance free.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if our dollar is voting, and we're voting for greener products, that may be what has to push it along in this capitalistic society,
Yeah,
basically. If basically money is what's driving everything here, like, let's vote with our dollar. And you see that, you see the organic industry really growing, and, and big companies even coming over, and trying to have more natural products. So that's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people know, nutrition and fitness are important, but they don't think about like personal care products, thinking and knowing that your skin is your largest organ and that everything you put on your skin goes into your bloodstream. So when you think about it that way, then your personal care products have got to come into play. And so really being a detective there and finding out what you're putting on your skin. So let's say, okay, so we reduce our toxic exposure in the home, but let's say we're going to talk about the body now. What are some ways to get rid of stored toxins in the body?
Yeah, and this is a topic I'm really passionate about. When I got really sick with mold, I knew a lot about health already. I had just, kind of like you, when you said your husband got diagnosed, like, I had just graduated my functional medicine training. I thought I knew a lot. And then everything just got turned upside down,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, I have to do all this, like, advanced detoxification. And yet, to some extent, like, just healthy diet movement is enough to support detoxification for just kind of like the average I don't even know if there's an average person anymore who's like mostly healthy. Like, I don't even know if that exists these days. But many of us have like bigger challenges. Like, we are trying to lose weight, or we're pre-diabetic, or we found toxic mold, and you do have to kind of next level your detox. The good news is, a lot of it can be just done at home, and you can control it. So you can go to the doctor for certain, IV treatments or ozone. And people always asking me about those things. I've tried almost all of them. I'm actually going for cryotherapy tonight. Like, I believe in it, but I also believe there's a lot you can do at home. So I'm a big fan of sauna, and you don't have to buy your own. You can just join a gym that's $40 a month and use that sauna. So don't put a barrier in your way to using sauna. And if you don't you're not used to sauna, you don't love heat, you can get used to it. You don't have to go in there for an hour straight off the bat. even if you don't hit a big sweat, you're still doing some detox internally when you raise your temperature like that. So you're detoxing through the skin, but also through the urine and the stool. So sauna can help remove heavy metals, molds, chemicals. It's pretty amazing. And meanwhile, calms your nervous system, helps repair or kill off damaged cells. It's like fountain of youth. It's so good for you. So I really am an advocate of sauna. A simple thing you could do also is dry brush your skin. Kind of a pretty old-timey thing, but it moves lymph, which is where a lot of those toxins are just hanging out. It's also good for cellulite and just like bringing blood to the surface of your skin. I used to know about it, but like never really do it. And now I'm pretty good about doing it. Sometimes in the winter I'm cold, I don't want to do it, but I'm pretty good about doing it because I like when I started doing it, I could really feel the benefits. If you have like edema too, you might notice quicker. Anything you've got kind of going on with lymph that's more acute, you may notice the dry brushing quicker. There's lots of little things. Epsom salt baths, and that's super relaxing. You can add essential oils. It has magnesium and sulfur, which are two important elements to support your liver. So that's like, what could be more pleasant than like taking a bath to detox?
Yeah, really.
Castor oil packs is another DIY thing that maybe people haven't tried, but pretty potent to help for weight loss, help for lymph movement, help just generally like support the liver and detox. So we've got an article on our website. I know some people like, I don't know how to do that. Well, there's pretty easy nowadays. Just go on YouTube for like 5 minutes. Now you know how. It's not that hard. It's just buying a couple of things. And then then you get started and you do it a couple of times and you get it. I also do coffee enemas. So those are probably people like pretty healthy, probably are going to say, if you're sick enough, you may be willing to try a coffee enema. Again, it's just like a learning curve to get used to it. It's actually my most popular YouTube video is when I teach about coffee enemas. It really increases your production of glutathione, and that's your antioxidant in the body. A lot of aging, a lot of like negative processes happen from oxidation in the body, and especially if your body's under some stress from too much toxins or whatever's been going on in your health, bringing up that glutathione level, so cleansing, and you're going to feel energized. So it's a nice kind of temporary pickup, whereas also like giving a very deep cleaning to your blood and like supplying it with this fresh glutathione. So there's some of the techniques. We can also get into food, supplements, oils, lots of stuff. Where do you want to go next?
Well, I was curious, I'm big into essential oils. They've really changed my family's health because really you have two ends of the spectrum. We talk about reducing our chemical exposure, and to do that, you have to go towards plant-based. So really cleaner food, but cleaner environment at home. And when you're talking about reducing your toxic exposure, then it's got to be something more essential oil based. So how would you, do you use essential oils to detox? And if you do, what are some ways you use them?
I do. I would say, we can talk about direct detox, but I would say more often I use them, especially when I was my sickest, just to sort of like manage all the symptoms I was dealing with when I was toxic. When you are toxic, you're having headaches, you're having digestive upset. I would get a lot of like lymph congestion in my neck. So I would use like citrus oils on my neck, especially citrus bliss is my favorite for that. So I kind of started out, using more like symptom-based, but there are some oils like especially good for detox. We talked a bit about weight loss. Grapefruit oil is a really nice detoxifying oil that can also support weight loss and lymph movement. Juniper berry is a nice one that supports kidney and liver in detox. Rosemary is very supportive and high in antioxidants. I love rosemary. It's like so versatile. It's good for your hair. It's good for detox. You use it for cooking. Lemon is a well-known detox oil. Using real lemons or essential oil of lemon is both helpful. The real lemon is alkalizing, and the lemon essential oil, antioxidant, like liver supporting. Turmeric oil, is now a doTERRA oil too, and it's very anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. You can do it. I mentioned castor oil packs, I mentioned sauna. You can do oils like while you do these practices, put them in your castor oil, put them on your feet when you go into the sauna. So there's some different, ways to kind of double, frankincense is probably also technically like a detox oil in some ways. I mean, pretty much all the oils are antioxidant. So in that sense, they are detox. Cilantro can help mobilize heavy metals. There's also one, oh, rosemary can help with iron, detoxing, like excess iron too. Clove, really powerful one with antioxidants. So in a way, like they all are, also, get more specific to use them for detoxing, like with your case.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So yeah, essential oils are so versatile, and almost all oils have different properties depending on what your needs are. And there's not just, it's really, if one oil doesn't work for you, then there's other oils as well that you could try. And so, but it's definitely a piece, I think, or another tool that people can use for detox and overall health. So, well, this has been just amazing information. And so, how would people reach you and learn more about you? And is there anything else you want them to know?
Yeah, so my main website is just my name, bridgitdanner.com. And there is a page on the upper right called freebies. And there's at least 6 different like free things you can get. There's a 5-day detox that you can download. There's some about supplements for detox. So if this kind of sparked your interest to learn more about non-toxic home or mold, or just like some of these detox techniques we learned about, we have some places for you to get started, or if there's a specific thing, just put it in the search bar in the blog, and we probably have some information on it. Because mostly it's just like I would encourage people just to be slowly learning, and you don't have to be like, oh gosh, my whole house is a problem. Like just focus on like what's in front of you. Like if you've been thinking about buying a water filter, maybe now is the time. Or if you're, buying a new mattress, okay, now it's time to think about that element. Or, just kind of step by step, like look at like your next buying decision or your next, food shopping decision, and think a little bit more about detox.
Yeah, very good information. Very, very helpful. So thank you so much for joining us. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today as well. So that's it.
Bye,
Bye for now.
everybody.